just I know I see a lot of familiar faces on the screen, but if we just want to kind of go around and introduce ourselves, like your name, your role, and then like what institution you work at. And so I can go ahead and get started. My name is Jack Van Dam. I use he, him pronouns. I serve as an assistant director of Res Life at Washington State University. And I'll just kind of go with like how people are on my screen. So Megan.
Yeah, my name is Megan Lockwood. I'm communications director for NWACUHO, and I'm with Oregon State University. I'm an executive assistant in housing and dining there. Yeah, so I'm not very familiar with closing processes, so I'm excited to be here.
Catherine.
Hi, everyone. Oh, wait, which one?
Oh, shoot. Sorry, Catherine Lee.
Hi, I'm Catherine with a K. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a residence life coordinator at Mount Royal University, and I will pass it around to the other Catherine.
Also Catherine with a K, and yet we still spell it differently. So I'm Catherine McGurry-Krieger. I'm actually with STARRES, but I spent over 20 years working at Oregon State University, and closing was part of what I did. So it's nice to be able to come in and support from the other side. And I always kind of like hearing how people are doing things now and what kind of support you all need and resources.
Thank you for being here with us today. Ian.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ian Miller, he, him, his pronouns. I serve as the president-elect and director of residence life at Central Washington University.
And Laura.
Hi, everyone. My name is Laura. I'm the Canadian membership director for NWACUHO, and I'm also the associate director for the University of Lethbridge.
And Matthew.
Hey everybody, my name is Matthew Mund. I'm with the University of Alaska Fairbanks. My pronouns are he, him, his. I'm the operations manager here. I'm also the corporate relations director for NWACUHO.
And Allie.
Hi folks, my name is Allie Gary. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the apartment operations coordinator at Oregon State University. My areas don't actually ever close, but we have some closing processes because we have folks that move in and out throughout the year. So I just wanted to be present.
Thanks for being here. And then last but not least, Steve.
Morning, everyone. I'm Steve Broderick, he, him pronouns. I'm the Associate Director of Residence Life at the University of British Columbia's Okanagan campus. Great to see everyone today. I've been involved with closing for a long time. That's certainly a key part of our role here as well. And I'm thrilled to join today. It's the first Friday webinar that I've been able to make all year. So happy to be a part, and great to see some familiar faces.
Well, thank you for everyone for indulging me in doing introductions so everyone kind of knows each other. I don't have a super structured, just kind of like agenda of sorts that like we're going to follow today. But I know some campuses, like on the semester model, are like kind of like in the process of getting things closed down for the summer. Some folks like on the quarter system are getting ready to like start the closing process. But to really kind of just like kick this conversation off is closing, I know like we're kind of like getting into our new normal like cycle of things back from maybe some processes that we did during the pandemic. But how is closing like on y'all's campus, or planning to do closing in a couple of weeks on y'all's campuses looking this year compared to like previous years that we've done kind of like living through the pandemic?
I guess for the University of Alaska Fairbanks, we're actually trying to move more back to in-person checkouts with the RAs. We found that the express checkout or the checkouts where the person just left, the RAs or our staff had a lot of cleanup to do with those checkouts. And so we're really trying to get new in-person ones, so like, hey, student, you need to remove this trash, or you need to clean up this stuff before you go, and not leave it there. Because of course we can charge them for that, but that also causes us time or contractors that we have to have come in. So that is something we're trying to actually move back to.
Similar for us at Central, we're moving back to a scheduled in-person checkout. But one of the things that we've done and kind of adapted from the pandemic is we're using a shorter kind of checkout form. So pre-pandemic, our checkout form was pretty extensive. I mean, we checked every kind of nook and cranny, and so the form that we used was very long. I mean, it'd take you 30 minutes to check everything and mark, if there's a ding or a scratch or whatever. And when we switched to the pandemic, it was more of an express checkout style where it was just basically, is there major damage, kind of yes or no. And so we've kind of continued that model with the in-person checkout process as well. So we're not spending as much time looking at, is there a piece of, a crumb on the floor, and making sure our staff are having to document that. It's, is there major damage that we're more likely than not going to bill the student? If so, let's write that down. If it's just kind of normal wear and tear, even kind of the room's dirty, those kinds of things, we're just leaving it alone, and it saves a lot of time for our staff. And then students still think that they're going to get charged half the time. So by having the in-person, so we believe that it's going to fix some of the issues we saw last year.
Amazing. Is there anybody else that wants to share kind of like anything that they've like changed or adjusted from their closing during the pandemic to kind of like closing and really like our first like normal year, like post-pandemic?
Sure, I can go. During the pandemic, we had a lot of extensions, I guess, for our students moving out / moving into summer units, which we kind of continued this year, and it was complete regret. We had students who were staying in their units that they shouldn't have been for way too long because their keys were not going to expire right away. So that's been a weird challenge that we've had, and it's all been international students, so we're trying to figure out how to best support all of them, because this has never happened before, and it's, I don't know, 4 students that we've noticed, all first year, all minors, like very bizarre. So that's a challenge we're having. So we're not going to have those long extensions anymore that we had in COVID. And in our perfect world, we are going to have, it won't be for this summer, but it'll be next summer. We are going to be taking photos of every single unit in detail and putting that into Star Res so that students then pick their rooms and they know exactly what they're walking into, whether they have a baseboard or not for their bed, all this stuff. And then when they move out, our caretaking team can go in and check off like just photos of what the room is missing or what damage is done, and we can base it off of what they moved into. So that way our process is more seamless as to what we're charging and what we're not charging. So that is a longer term project that we've got, but that is our perfect world.
Yeah, the previous institution I worked at too, like we like put all our damages into Star Res, and like to our RAs, like when they were walking through, they recorded the damage that way. So like in our central office, when students called back and were like, oh, I got charged for this damage thing, like we could just like quickly look it up and like, yep, like here's the picture, like documenting the damage that was caused. Does anyone else want to share like with this question? Amazing, cool, seeing them. Is there anything that anybody like came into this meeting that really like they wanted to like talk about or showcase, like that's something like a really cool process at their institution or on their campus that they wanted to like discuss?
I'm curious if anyone has any new technology or any digital tools that they found effective in trying to expedite things. And not to throw this at you, Catherine Magira, but might be an opportunity for you to share anything new on the Star Res side too.
I mean, I didn't come to do a sales pitch, but no, I think one of the reasons I did want to come too is I like hearing what you all need, and We have developers who are always wanting to know what's going on out with the practitioners in the field. And so one of the things that I know, and I don't know, Laura and OSU team, if you all use the appointments module for any of the move out things, but being able to allow students to sign up for times for move out based on student staff or professional staff availability is a helpful element, and being able to track your damages, like Laura was saying.
We don't have Star Res on our campus, but our goal is to hopefully get there someday. And so we have a lot of just like homegrown systems. But one thing that's been really helpful, I think, to our live-in staff and to like our RAs, is our custodial team really works hand in hand with us, like when we're doing our closing process. And so as our students check out at their area desks, like in our system, we have like a dashboard that essentially shows like, oh, one person is out of their room or two people are out of their room. And so then our custodial team is able to kind of like just go in and start like cleaning those spaces as soon as they're out. And so like that's been a really big difference from past campuses I've been at, because they've typically waited just like for every single student to get out, and it's just like taken a lot of time, just like days at a time, to get the like spaces flipped, especially if you have like camps and conferences coming in like pretty quickly after students are out. And so like that's been a really neat way that we've been able to do things on our campus, just really work like hand in hand to work with our custodial team, because like they're a super big important part of our closing process.
Yeah, on that same front, we're a THD school, and it has a lot of that similar functionality. We use THD for them to sign up for stuff, for the staff to check in and check out, do those RCRs through that system as well. And for this year in particular, we're remodeling about 700 of our beds, and so we need that furniture moved immediately. And so that information, once somebody's checked out in THD, that feeds directly to our facility staff, so they can dispatch their crew to remove the furniture within an hour of that person being checked out. And so that kind of turnaround it's also helpful too, because it doesn't rely on our assignment coordinators to turn around and send, a roster, a note to somebody. All of that's happening. And I'm assuming Star Res is a similar way, but there's reports that kind of auto refresh in THD mobile every time somebody clicks on it. And so they can see the live data of like who are the new people checked out. And so I know we really rely on our THD system, which of course is now under Star Res's umbrella. But yeah, that's what, we've spent years just integrating our software into everything and are making sure that pretty much all the processes are using the software, and we don't do things outside of the software. And so that's very intentional, because it's when you have a bunch of homegrown stuff, they often don't talk to each other automatically, and you have to pull things out and input into a different system. And so, yep.
Amazing. What are some ways that y'all have like looked at your campuses, kind of like what we've been talking about, like working to work more efficiently or streamline things, and just like help like provide our students the best possible experience when they're checking out?
I can speak to what we do in the apartment communities. I can't speak to what we do on the res ed side because I'm fully operations based. But basically in the apartments, we try to be as flexible as possible with folks. Even though it's a 12-month contract, folks only need to give us 30 days notice of when they're planning to move out by submitting an intent to vacate form, which they find on their portal, which is linked through Star Res. Once we receive that email, I make sure it's communicated with the community assistant that is responsible for connecting with the resident, and they send a whole like move out procedures email, usually 30 days in advance of when they're moving out, sometimes a little bit longer. If we're getting intent to vacates for the end of June, we're sending them out now so people can start to prepare. And basically it just includes all of the information that they need to be successful in their move out, and that they need to schedule an appointment with one of our community assistants before they move out to do an inspection. We don't have a tool that we're using for that per se, other than the Google appointment slots. which will eventually be going away because we won't be using Google for much longer. But right now that's what's working. And then the students have more than enough time to reach out and ask questions to their community assistants or to me of like, hey, what do I do with my extra stuff that I can't necessarily move with? Where can I donate these things? Is there any sort of option? So that way we lessen the amount of items that are just left in their apartments. But that's the process that's been working for us, and just staying in communication with them, because the folks that are living in these communities are second year and above, or folks that have families. So they don't need as much hands-on attention as some of our first year students.
Allie, do you hear anything from specifically, I guess, your second year and above, like about the differences between the residence hall and the department process? Or I don't know if they'd share that with you.
No, I've also never really asked them for that feedback. Generally they will tell me things that I have not asked to hear about. But the move out process is not something that they've really talked through. They just say that it's nice that they only have to schedule an appointment 24 hours in advance, like minimum, and they don't have to, like, if they have questions about it, their community assistant's available via email. So they haven't said anything of like, this is way better than the res halls, or this
That's
is
what I'm wondering.
So.
No worries.
Jody, thanks for joining. We're just talking about closing and kind of just like having just a free-flowing roundtable discussion. But if you want to like feel free like to introduce yourself to our group.
Sure. Sorry that I am late, but I'm Jody. I'm the office manager here at Western Oregon University. And so we are just trying to jump in and just see what other people do during closing. So I came here to learn something.
We're super excited you're here. And so the question that we were kind of like, just like you jumped into, we were just talking about like, what are some things our schools across our region have been doing to kind of like streamline things and like create like opportunities like that best serve like our students. And so like when they leave our communities for the summer, they have like a good taste in their mouth, and they had like kind of just like a good overall experience when they're leaving.
I will talk about what we do, but I also have a question as to if anyone's switched over from what we currently do, because it's not necessarily working for us. But what we currently have, which kind of switched over COVID, was that students can drop off their keys into a little like envelope that we give them, and it has to have their name, their room number, and that is how we track that they've actually physically moved out, because it's not, we don't want our caretakers going in if there's someone still there packing or whatever, overextending their stay like we've had. So that is the only way we give the green light to our caretakers. So if we don't get the keys, it stays red, like they are occupying, they're there for too long, etc. Our issue is that no matter how much communications we have with our students, they sometimes miss the keys. So then we're charging them for not bringing in their keys on time, or they've brought them with them and they kind of forgot, or they left it in their unit and we just had no idea. So there's a lot of challenges that we have currently, and I don't know if anyone was doing that and has switched over to something better. I know Catherine, you said with Star Res, they can book their appointments, which seems nice. I just don't know if they, because we have their time limit of like, this is your move out date, I don't know if they would still meet that deadline, because that's the issue we've been having. So I don't know if anybody else has a solution to this problem.
I can kind of speak to what we do at MRU. We have like I don't think we switched, but our move out process is similar. Like we have 1 day of move out. And then we heavily rely on our RAs to do the room checks. So that way they can actually go and like knock on the rooms that still show that there's someone living in there. And then their job is kind of just to be like, you know, like you've got to move out. Like, what is your plan? Are you looking to stay to extend? And then they report that information. Unfortunately, we don't use like a great like technology system. We just use like Google Forms or like Google Sheets, and they kind of indicate there. I think there's probably a better way to do that, but we haven't figured that out yet. And then after the RAs check the additional rooms, that's when the RLCs check the rooms that they have missed. And then we generate like a smaller list of rooms that we have to follow up for. We have to follow up the next week. The issue that we've run into is that like we get a lot of stragglers who say that they filled out an extension form and they haven't filled out an extension form, and we're like, okay. So we kind of have a similar issue with that as well.
So here at Fairbanks, of course, there's a big cost to it, but we're in the process of updating all of our key locks to either swipe or punch code. We have one building that we have a punch code. It's an electronic lock, but they get a code they punch in, and then there's other ones that are swipe. And so that, of course, just eliminates the problem because there's no keys, and they can use an express checkout process through our system that will indicate to us that they're gone so that we can dispatch staff, or if they haven't, then it's more like, through text communication and things like that to get a hold of them. That seems to be more reliable than dispatching staff to try to find them in person. So we have found that the long range, so one building at a time if you can't afford to do it all, but that's where we're moving to.
So on our campus, we kind of like have a hybrid of all of the things. And so our students can start checking out essentially the week before finals start if they have like all online funnels or whatever, and they don't want to be here during finals week. Like we have them kind of utilize like the express checkout process. But during finals week, our students can check out at any time. We utilize an area desk model. And so our students bring their keys, turn them into like our front desk, and our desk assistants, they kind of like utilize our homegrown technology and kind of like mark those people as checked out. And so like that message gets sent to our custodial staff. And so when they're going through our buildings, like utilizing like their iPads and stuff, they're able to kind of like see like on a real time basis, like what like our occupancy looks like in our rooms, like what rooms are completely empty. And so they can kind of go through and get stuff cleaned. Also, like we kind of like, so they're supposed to be out by tomorrow afternoon at the latest. But like we have like student athletes and some like other folks like who need some additional time occasionally. And so they just work directly with their like live in hall staff. And then our hall staff goes and like puts a sheet on their front door, essentially saying that, hey, like you're approved to stay until like this time. And so I think that's a pretty good model too, because if there's people who are wanting to stay later and they're starting to see these signs pop up like up and down their halls, that kind of like encourages them and serves as a reminder to them of like, hey, like maybe I should actually communicate with our housing staff as well and let them know that like I'm planning on staying late as well. And then yeah, we need to work with them of, okay, like you have until like this date, then if like you're staying past essentially Monday, like we're moving you to summer housing, so like we can get like all our spaces cleaned and flipped ready for like our camps and conferences season. That was an awesome question, Laura. Does anybody have any other like answers to Laura's question? No. Does anybody have any other questions they wanted to come in here and like talk about, or like just like they wanted to like have this like one thing answered like showing up today?
So I'm kind of curious how you all manage your we have what we call swap boxes where people just bring their stuff that they don't want anymore. And then we transfer that all to what we call a relay free store. That's a university-wide event that happens where the university just gets rid of a bunch of stuff. I'm just curious how you guys manage that. Like we have this year we're trying kind of a central swap box in one area, but each hall usually has a swap box that becomes this giant pile. And I'm just curious.
We don't really have a swap box, but we usually keep everything for 30 days. Like we'll reach out to the unit, it's all bagged. And whatever they leave, it's usually vacuums because they're just too big to take home. And whatever the other products or items, we'll bag it, we'll put their unit number, we'll reach out, let them know they have 30 days. Once that period is done, the students union actually comes and collects everything. So similar to what your university does, and they do a giant garage sale with all the items for other students to just come and grab whatever, because it's usually kitchen sets and vacuums, any cleaning products, really, a lot of cleaning products, stuff like that. The only thing we do have is we have bins for food that we collect for the food bank. That's the only thing we do, and it usually ends up being a hot mess of items, clothing, frozen items, which we always have to make sure we check before the food bank comes and grabs it, because that's just not very great items to be throwing in there. But we also have that. And then we kind of collect a little bit here so that we can have over the summer for any students with some food insecurities in residence. So that's kind of like a nice project that we actually started this summer. So we have our own little pantry, which is really unique and exciting. So yeah, that's pretty much all we have in terms of swap.
This year, we're trying to partner with Office of, essentially it's civic engagement. It has a cooler acronym than that, but we've done in the past a program called Don't Waste, Donate. And so they've set up stations kind of throughout campus in kind of our in the areas where our halls are located. And so they'll have basically a van at a drop-off location where students can bring items, and then we partner with them, so we don't collect anything. We basically just advertise to try to get students to take their items there. The civic engagement has worked with our on-campus facilities department and off-campus donation centers and different things, and so they will basically similar kind of do a university yard sale. The civic engagement office gets a percentage of the profits, and then the university gets a percentage of the profits as well. And then the items get other items get donated to local Habitat for Humanity or kind of whatnot. And so we are trying to bring that back again this year. One of the things that we've noticed is that sometimes if students have large furniture items, it is difficult for them to get to the drop-off locations. And so we find that sometimes it's easier for students to just like put it by the dumpster. So we often work internally with our housing facility staff that are the ones that collect all of our refuse, to, if they find those items, to not necessarily just like throw it in the garbage, but to kind of assess to see if it's salvageable. And then they kind of similarly do that as well. They'll take it to our on-campus kind of main facility area, and they'll kind of sort through that if they can. If it's just simply abandoned property that we don't know, we're required to keep it for, I believe it's 60 days, and then it goes to, be sold. So
we have a couple of different systems. We have a like food box, so any like non-perishables that go into that, and we donate that to Calgary Food Bank. And then this year we also started like Laura said, like a pantry. So some of that non-perishable items go towards that pantry, and then summer students can come and take food as they please. We also have a clothing donation box, and that I don't know where that goes to. And then we also have a book. It usually just gets piled, like everything just gets piled around the like the clothing donation piles. So we kind of have to sort through those. But what we are trying to do this year is we're trying to make like a free little library within residence. We have one on campus, but we're trying to do just like a residence-free little library, and we have the books for it already through donations. So we're hoping to get that up and running. Our issue is all the miscellaneous items after books, clothing. So like Tupperware, you know, like silverware. We get a lot of just like decor. So I'm wondering what other institutions do about those items that could be repurposed, but I think for the time being, our institution probably throws those items out.
We also run like a donation program that's fairly comprehensive. It's coupled with a pretty substantial marketing campaign called Mindful Move Out. And it's all about sort of reducing waste and getting things to food banks, clothing, drive for charities that accept those things, furniture, books, recycling, all those things. The big change we made this year that's been impactful for us was to have one sort of centralized donation space that was staffed the entire period during move out. So for about 2 weeks, we had a combination of paid staff and volunteers. And we did some training to have them sort of triage things that students brought by. And that made quite a difference for us in terms of making sure that the goods were brought were going to be donatable, and we could sort of sort things as they came in. So we could have Tupperware go into like a household donation box and small furniture items. And we were able to pull in some additional partners because we had things sorted as we went. So we were able to get a number of things set aside for like incoming exchange students from our international team for next year that their students go out and buy every year and just get usually tossed at the end of their term. So it was a couple $1,000s to make sure we had it staffed, but we actually saved the money on landfill tippage rates by reducing the amount of things that were recyclable or reusable that were going to the landfill anyways. So it was a good return on investment, and we were able to really have some good wins with our campus and community partners. And from a sustainability perspective, we kept a lot of that stuff out of the landfill just by having lots of sort of processing and pickups as we went. I think we had about 6 full like semi-trailer loads collected over about a 2-week period.
That's really, really cool. Does anyone else have anything to share about like what they do with managing donations at the end of the year? I have another question for y'all. This just got brought up yesterday by one of the staff members I supervise, is that parking and students just leaving cars all around our residence halls has been a mess this year. And especially like parents like coming to help their students move out. Like they're getting ticketed, and like they're calling our transportation office and they're not having the best interactions with them. Does anyone have a really good, or not just a good system in place that helps our students and like their families and supporters like help kind of like have like a better experience when they're just like pulling up to like load things up to head on back home or wherever else they're going for the summer?
Is parking free during move-in, and so that's kind of where they're getting that perception that it's not a deal.
So we have a volunteer move crew during move-in, and so they just like show up. We have move-in bins, we get all this load into the bins, and then they go find like a more permanent parking spot that's legal for them to park in.
But still, it's ingrained in their head, like dropping off, picking up, you can just park wherever you need to get. Okay, yeah.
We usually just email parking, like the head of parking here, to let them know so that they can triage to their employees, like, please be nice during this time, because it's usually the one day, but a lot of them move out throughout final season. So it's just like a long period of time of just like a bit of grace for just around the residence sections, not our entire campus, obviously, because they park literally everywhere and they'll take up space, 15-minute zones, like everything. So we kind of give them the heads up, like it's going to be a little wild for a little while. But they're usually pretty good about it once we give them a pretty good amount of heads up. so that they can let their employees know. So that's kind of what we've mitigated throughout the year.
So Jack, do you have an urban campus or is it like its own entity?
We're pretty rural. We just don't have tons and tons of parking spaces on our campus. And so, yeah, people just kind of like park, what Laura was saying, just kind of a little bit of everywhere. And then our like transportation folks roll up. If someone's not with the car, they ticket it. Catherine, I love your message. Yes, yeah, we're kind of out in the middle of nowhere. And then, yeah, then they call the transportation office, and then they occasionally don't have the best conversations and interactions with like our parking folks. And so just trying to kind of like think of like how can we work with our transportation, our parking people to kind of like have our like students and like parents and stuff like have a better experience when they're leaving, because like the last thing that we want them to have like leaving WSU for the year is for them to get a ticket, have a bad interaction with like our staff, and then they're just like,
Yeah.
why?
I think for us, like we definitely they're more lax for sure, but any areas that's like a safety and security kind of thing, like make sure there's adequate signing, which we like, you know, partner with parking to make sure that we're marking those with whatever little, you know, I don't know, whatever they're called, A-frame like signs. And so just so that it's not like a surprise, and that if like, and try to like designate like specific parking or just loading zones, I guess, really, because that seems to be people want to be close, and then they but we're not a urban. I was curious if, because I could see if it was like you're in the middle of the city and like, you know, people are parking like blocking other traffic, that would be an issue. But for us, it's like, yeah, whatever, for a couple of days. But
You might be more urban than Pullman.
which is interesting.
Yeah, we just have 400, or we have like 4,000 students living in our residence halls. And so just like it quickly adds up, which is like with everybody like trying to move out more or less all around the same time. And a lot of our students don't have cars. And so like family members or supporters that come up with like their cars, and they're not the most like familiar with campus. And so it just ends up being a little bit of a mess.
When you all send messages out to students about the move out process, do you include parents or families on those communications? That could potentially help with some of this too.
That's a really good suggestion.
I don't even think like how, like, do we, like, I don't know. I can't even think, do we have that information? Like,
You collect contact information from family if it's not emergency contact potentially, or you could ask for it.
yeah, I guess emergency contact information, but yeah, interesting.
We kind of just get away with the parking situation. Unfortunately, our system is awful. It's inefficient, but we don't have a lot of students. And during like students move out throughout finals, so there's a little bit of that going on. And then during the actual like deadline to move out, we do get that chaos. But I think there's like an unspoken agreement between us and parking that parking just doesn't ticket anybody. That's how we've gotten away with it so far. I don't think that it's going to keep working, especially if we're full. So I'm also open to better ideas out there. Something I did want to share though is related to moving service, like moving move out support. We have summer students staying with us, but they have to move rooms to their new room over the summer, and it is like about like a 1-minute drive. It's like a kilometer away. So this year, what we are trying to do is offer that move out support between the two residences. So we are going to be hopefully renting a U-Haul truck and offering that like moving service between the two residences. So hopefully that will, I mean, A, like help with that parking situation, and also B, just provide students a better experience to move from residence to residence.
We do have some of our parking lots shut down or shut out just for move in, move out times, so that people can get a little closer. And then we have parking services out there. Then encouraging them to move as soon as they get their car unloaded. So that helps a little bit, but you know, if you don't have a little bit of extra parking, that's hard. But yeah, they're usually parking services getting cars out of certain parking lots during certain times to close it down for, you know, move outs and those types of things.
On that kind of same line, any service like that might put too much kind of strain on our staff, I've been trying to find opportunities to contract out. One of the things is like summer storage or like shipping things back and forth. Like we just partnered with College Boxes, which is part of U-Haul, and I know there's quite a few others. They're just the only ones that operate in Alaska. And so that's just been helpful to take a piece or process away from our hall staff to have to do, and that transporting across campus seems, we have a small crew that in facilities, student workers who can help with that, but it's a very small number. So if we have a large process, I'll contact a local moving entity. And usually those things are when I've had to empty a structure due to a facilities failure or something, that I'll contract out like that. But I'm just curious, anybody else contracts any part of their moving process or that time period out to any entities?
That was my next question too, of like if like that any universities like provide that as like a service or an option for students.
We're so small, we don't need a contract out, but we do have the option for them to keep their stuff over the summer if they're coming back. And it's a very cost-effective option for our students. So they box everything up. They have a limited amount of items that they're allowed. I think they're given like 6 boxes, which used to be cardboard boxes. And then we learned mice. So that was a great time for me to have that discussion over a move-in. So yeah, they're plastic bins now. And we store them. What usually happens is they box everything up, they leave, we're like, okay, sounds good. We mark it off with like tape to make sure that no one opens them while we've stored them. And then once their new room is ready for the fall, all of those bins go to that new room and they stay there for the entirety of the summer. So that way, when they move in, their stuff is already there. So it's just like really easy for us because it doesn't involve us storing anything in whatever unit we don't have, like space we don't have. And it's just convenient for the student to walk in and be like, hey, my stuff is here. Amazing. So that really helps us in terms of like storage for the student and for us with no space.
Laura, what kind of uptake are you seeing on that program these days?
That's a great question. I'll get back to you on that. I think it actually is pretty good uptake for us because we do have a lot of transfer overs. But I don't have that off the top of my head, but I think it's a pretty big number because we do have 88 students living with us this summer, which is the highest it's ever been, great. Which is, yeah, pretty great. So yeah, I'll get back to you on that though. But everyone whoever does the program for the first time continues to do it if they continue with us on campus because it's so convenient for them.
Who transfers all the things out like from storage to like their new like places of residence for the fall?
Sorry, can you repeat that one?
Yeah, so Laura, who like does all the transferring of when your students put their stuff like into storage and then moves all their belongings into like their new spaces for the fall?
So we have our maintenance team, like our in-house maintenance team, and then over the summer we do have 5 to 6 students that work with us, summer students that are part of the maintenance team. So they do a lot of that. They're the runners. So as soon as like, say they're moving from an apartment to a townhome, as soon as that townhome is done in terms of caretaking has gone in, maintenance has gone in, checked it over, then the runners will take the boxes from their old apartment unit, put it into the townhomes, and now the apartment unit is ready to be cleaned and any changes can be done then. And that's it. That like the room is just done for the entirety of the summer. If we had a lot of like if we continue to see our summer program grow and we have a lot more students, then we'll probably get into the muddy waters of like, where is all of these bins going if we don't have the space? But as of right now, we're doing really good. So that's nice.
And here at WSU, we have like pretty big storage spaces built into all of our residence halls. And so we have students continuing to live with us for the upcoming academic year. They're able to like box their things up. We have a pretty big storage tag that we put like on every box. And so when they come here for move-in for the fall, they're able to come like retrieve their belongings and then like move them, like the items themselves, like to their new residence hall or apartment that they're going to be living in. So we have 9 minutes left. Oops, sorry, go ahead, Matthew.
No, just around that, when we used to do that, we found that like if students decide not to come back to UAF for the fall, we had their stuff, managing the shipment and the billing and blah, blah, blah. And so that's one exciting thing and about moving to a vendor is like it goes from us, like U-Haul comes and picks it up. They store it at a U-Haul facility in town. If a student changes their mind, it's a contract that they have individually with U-Haul. They can have it mailed to wherever using their contracts. And then in the fall, there's specific dates that U-Haul will bring it back to campus. And they're all in contact directly with the student. So the student will be notified. They'll say, hey, meet me at my unit. And then U-Haul will bring it directly to their unit. So just from a service level, getting that off our staff's plates that have lots of other things that they need to be doing during that time. It's a very, very busy time. That's been really helpful, but just wanted to mention that.
That sounds amazing. So we have 8 minutes left together. Does anybody have anything else that they wanted to talk about or like just like that they've been wanting to say the whole time, just haven't found the time to be able to talk about it? Well, seeing none, this is kind of a semi-different method of doing a First Friday webinar than like we've traditionally had in the past, of kind of like going from a presentation to kind of like having more like of a roundtable interactive discussion. And I just wanted to get like collect feedback from people of do y'all kind of like the model that we did today of having it be interactive? Do y'all like prefer having more kind of like a structured conference style like type presentation on like a First Friday webinar? What are y'all's thoughts?
I always have lots of questions and I like people's answers. So I like this.
I'm the same way, Laura.
I know we're looking to expand these in whatever kind of format people are liking. So definitely please provide your feedback.
Yeah, I always find just the sort of the open conversation very very thought-provoking. Lots of great comments, always give me things to sort of reflect on and think about how we do things here.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I really appreciate having opportunities to connect with colleagues from other areas and discuss like best practices or, like, let's talk through some of these things that we're doing and try to come up with some solutions. I don't know if that works for every single topic that's offered, but it is nice to have a balance between roundtables and other First Friday webinars.
Yeah, I definitely like there's actually a third option, which is like panels, like where you have kind of a set of people talking that are kind of experts. And I think they all have their own advantages. And I like there to be kind of like a mix, but I really love when it's like no more than half of the scheduled time is whatever, if it's like a session or like a panel that they're talking and that we spend at least half the time on the open conversation. And so in an event like this, I think it's also really helpful too that when we announce the event that we have the questions that we plan to kind of have the conversation based around so that people can think about it prior to that. Sometimes I've noticed that people just take some while to process things. And so if they're suddenly asked a question that they're just not prepared to talk. So.
That's a really great point, Matthew. I'm one of those people generally that takes a moment. I'm like, I don't know what to ask. So having those, we'll definitely take that into consideration when promoting these in the future.
And I also serve as our committees director for Northwest NWACUHO. And so if like y'all have a First Friday webinar topic that y'all would want to present, whether it be more of a conference style presentation, a roundtable, a panel, just email me at committees@northwestnacuho.org and I can definitely like get you slotted in to do a first Friday webinar, or find additional people that can help you like add to like your presentation or panel or whatever like form or method that you want to present in. Also, I'm going to put a plug in this upcoming Wednesday. Let me see, double check what time. Sorry. At 1 p.m. Pacific, we are doing our Northwest NWACUHO all committee meeting. And so we've kind of like revamped our committee structure a little bit this year. And we're really looking for folks to join like our like new subcommittee structure that we have in place. And so if y'all are interested in attending that, it's a great opportunity, and you should have received like communication from Northwest NWACUHO about that. But then also, if y'all have just like coworkers that like are interested in getting more involved, really this is like just like a kind of a social time that we want to invite everybody in and be able to just kind of like really create that community, and just like be able to hear from one another, kind of just like more like task focused on like what we're hoping to achieve with our 3 subcommittees that exist. And we have like 3 different subcommittees that exist. We have our connection subcommittee that focuses on helping support Megan with our social media and me with like our first Friday webinars. We have a collaboration subcommittee that is like working on revamping our mentorship program within Northwest NWACUHO within our region, and creating different networking opportunities among our different various like experience levels, so like new professionals, mid-level professionals, and senior housing officers. And then we have our engagement subcommittee that focuses on creating drive-ins, like smaller drive-in conferences in our region, then also creating functional area networking, so like around like housing operations, res life, things like that. And so if y'all are interested in getting more involved, or have like worked with folks who are interested in getting more involved, please encourage them to come out on Wednesday, and like we would love to have conversations with them as well. But thank you all so much for taking time out of your Friday, and I hope you have a great weekend.
Thanks.
Thank you all.
Great to see everyone.
Bye.
It's an everyone.